Yes, well, this is a cover that I now proudly own.
Inselpost is desirable.
Yes, highly desirable. I got this in a Cherrystone auction. My very first purchase from them. They have very high quality material and often at high prices. In my presentation about the Dodecanese Islands, I showed a cover with another stamp, the blue German military stamp with Inselpost on it, which for which the starting price was $4,500, and that's beyond my range. But this one I got. These are stamps. These are actually parcel post stamps that were distributed to German soldiers stationed in the Greek islands and overprinted Inselpost island postage um, in 1944. And this is addressed to a woman in Germany, Fräulein Helga, probably Helga Grun. I'm not sure. That would be Grun with an umlaut over the U, and I'm not sure if that's what this represents. Canceled on February 18th, 1944, or is it no 45? Yes, the stamps were issued in late 44, but this was used in February of 45. And this in the lower left corner is almost invisible, but there's a marking here. You can make out the word Feldpost here, and I think this is probably a censor marking. I cannot read. There's just simply nothing there to read on the left side, but there's a number down here and some kind of a symbol in the center, uh, probably a censor marking. This is the back of the cover. Um, I'm planning to show this to Tom Gertz, who specializes in these German military covers, and he knows how to find out based on the numbers, where this came from. The sender of the letter was not supposed to put his location. That was, secret military information. The return address is only identified by numbers and letters that don't refer to a specific place unless you know the code. There are several other little markings on this that I find interesting. I can't tell you what they are. Down here, this looks like something that was added by the sender of the letter. That looks like the same pen that he used, but I don't know what it means. Maybe love and kisses or something. Then here, this could be a mark placed there by somebody who owned the cover. Collectors sometimes like to mark the back of a stamp or a cover that they own. Down here at the bottom is a rather mysterious ampersand. I don't know what that's about. Looks like it probably came with the envelope. This looks like someone's written M9, which could be a number in the Michel catalog. Not sure about that. And finally, in the corner, what looks like an exportizer mark. But that too is to be explored. The Inselpost overprinted existed in three different forms on these stamps. These images are from my Greek catalog that covers these stamps because even though they're German stamps, they were used on the Greek islands. And I noticed that the quality of printing seems to be quite different. Notice the center stamp is very sharply printed, and the left and right ones, the letters are a lot larger. There's nothing in the catalogs that I've seen about any varieties of these or different printings. I can only assume that the differences are due to different printings using the same plate, but at a later state or with different ink or something that caused the image to come out this way rather than this way. I would be happy to be corrected about that if anybody knows uh, about this question. These were all issued in the fall of 1944. The first one was printed, the one on the left was printed in Vukovar, Croatia, which at the time was governed by a pro-Nazi Croatian government. And the plane that was taking the stamps to the Greek islands for use there went down and the stamps were lost, except for a small number that were retained at the printing house, including a number that had been rejected as printer's waste Like for this one has, the Inselpost overprint inverted. 500 of these stamps were then sent as souvenirs, I guess you would say, to German officers. There never were more than 500 of these available to collectors, and the catalog value, there's no value given in the catalogs for this stamp in used form, only unused, and it catalogs for 2,100 euros. So that's, due to the rarity. The second one was printed in Rhodes for use there. And that's the one I have with this capital letter horizontal overprint. I don't have the number of these that were made. It was supposedly 1 month's supply. So it's not rare, but it is an expensive stamp. Catalog value is €720 unused and 420 used. The final one is much more common, and it's this one printed with blue ink. This was done in Zagreb, Croatia, and close to 1 million of these were printed. So its catalog value is only 42 euros. On to the next item. This is a postcard that I got just because it shows a view of the island of Rhodes, vue de mer, view from the sea. Once again, the harbor of Rhodes, which we've seen before, the location where in ancient times there was this monument, the Colossus of Rhodes. What's written here, I cannot read this. I'm not even sure what language it is, but probably Czech, because it was sent to what is now the Czech Republic at a time when it was still part of the Austrian Empire. This date looks like April 8th, 1907. Very curious way of making a 7, but I believe that's what it is. So here's the other side of the card, addressed in Czech. This is apparently the name, Wojciech Samek, and this it is Lerny adjunct or something.
I
It
thought
means
that
an
was going to be
assistant professor.
adjunct lieutenant.
Well, it's an assistant professor.
Oh, okay.
What that
Oh,
means.
okay. Lerny. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
I did look up this location. Paninsky Tinek is a small village in what is now the Czech Republic. It's northwest of Prague, about halfway between Prague and the German border. Czechy is the Czech area, and it's part of Austria, Autriche, the French version of Austria. The stamp is an Austrian stamp, overprinted for, in the catalogs, you'll find this stamp listed as overprinted for offices in Crete. It's originally 5 Heller, I believe, and it's overprinted centime. These stamps were available for use not only in Crete, but throughout the Austrian Empire. Wherever the Austrian offices in Turkey existed, these stamps could be used. There were other stamps specifically printed for the offices in Turkey, but both types, the ones issued in Crete and the ones issued for Turkey, were used in both places. And by the way, the cancellation is Smyrna, Smyrna, city now in Turkey, which at that time had a fairly large Greek population as well. In fact, it was like most of the cities in the Ottoman Empire, it was very international. The large cities, Constantinople, had a large Greek area, it had Bulgarian area, Jewish district, and it's only in more recent times that the city has been essentially Turkified, so that the population is now majority Turkish and Muslim.
It seems to be one of those cards that for which you're instructed only to write a few words. You see the way they put the lines there where you're supposed to write on it?
Yes.
They used to have rules that you couldn't use a postcard if you wrote too much on it.
Yes. In fact, there seems to be no place at all for a message.
Well,
It's just the address. I suppose you might be able to put a few words in, but I see lines for the address, and on the other side is a picture. If you remember, there is something written here, added by the writer of the card, and have no idea what it says. But there's essentially no place for a message. There is a line here through this carte postale, and I have no idea why that is. It must have been done by the writer, because it seems to be the same kind of pencil, and it's under the stamp. So he drew that line, then put the stamp on. The only part of the postmark that I can read is the year 07. So that confirms what's written on the other side.
The currency says centimes.
Right.
Does that indicate any French influence?
Well, as I said, these were supposed to be issued for the Austrian offices in Crete. And why they would use centime, I simply don't know. The stamps issued for offices in Turkey used the Turkish currency, piastra and para. And apparently it was considered appropriate to use centime in Crete, and I don't know why. Of course, the French also had their offices in Crete, but why the Austrians should also use centime is something I don't know.
One feature of the French with their postcards, they actually had a special. The normal postcard rate was 10 centimes, but at times there was a special rate that if you had less than five words or less, you could post it at 5 centimes.
Okay.
And so sometimes you see something franked at 5 centimes and it's got 7 words, and it'll actually be charged postage due, and other times not. But the
Wow.
French had this peculiarity with the limited writing, half the rate going on. So
Well,
and that
the
carried
rules
through
are
to
the rules.
that carried through to the colonies. That's why I know about it.
I wanted to show just a few little examples of modern covers. And the reason I'm showing these is just to show you some changes that have occurred with more recent material. I love these cancellations. These are some of the most informative and clearest cancellation strikes I've seen. You know, so often nowadays cancellations are illegible, or they're sprayed on and it's all fuzzy and smudgy. But these are very clear from Etobicoke, Ontario, Canada, and some nice stamps. The next example here, this is a Greek cover. And by the way, all these covers are ones in which I've received stamps that I bought on eBay. So I get stamps coming to me from all over the place. They're almost all Greek stamps or from the Balkan area, but sometimes the dealer is in some other part of the world. These are beautiful stamps. These are Greek stamps showing the synagogue at Ioannina, which is the major town of southern Epirus in Greece. By the way, here's a close-up of the stamp showing the interior of the synagogue. On the left here, some words I don't know. In English, it says Synagogue of Ioannina, which, by the way, in Turkish, the Turks called it Yanina when they controlled it. But these words, Kachal, Kantos, Gyazan. Is there anybody who knows what this could possibly mean? That's Kachal, Kantos, Gyazan. And I assume that this is Hebrew. It probably also says Synagogue of Ioannina.
The top word at the very top of that inscription is Bayit, which means house. And a synagogue could sometimes be referred as a house, a
Like a house of
prayer,
worship.
house of Israel, etc.
Mhm.
And then the next to last word from the bottom is kadosh, and that means holy. And the middle word is kahal, and that's community.
This is that word in Greek, kachal.
The other two I'm not sure of, but it's house and community and holy. So it'd be
Well,
holy house, the holy house, and then something other.
well, that's progress. Just to remark on the cancellation here, we've degenerated to a level of near unintelligibility here. It's very smudgy and crude, as are most cancellations nowadays. The next example is one where we're simply missing the cancellation. So many letters that I receive nowadays come through without any cancellation at all. Nice stamps. These are, again, Greek stamps. And this is a view of the Parthenon Hall. I assume this is part of the museum in Athens. The marble decorations on the Parthenon, as you know, are now in the British Museum. These may be replicas on display in Athens. And of course, there's a long-term campaign by the Greeks to have those Parthenon statues returned to Greece. But as of now, this has not yet occurred. This stamp showing some spinning tops. This word sphura means spinning top, but no cancellation. And finally, we get to no stamp at all. We have returned to the days of stampless mail. This is a letter containing some stamps I bought from Bulgaria. We have postal markings, prioritaire, and a cancellation. And this, I assume, is an indication of the cost of postage. This looks like a measurement of the weight. I would assume 0.019, probably not a postal rate, but a weight of the letter. Anyway, it got to me, registered even, but no stamp.